we'll give it another 5 minutes, Robin, just to give people time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll get started.
Sounds good.
Oh, I was muted. It's talking, but I forgot I was muted. To somebody in the chat was asking if any of us speaks German, which Shetel, you know some German, don't you?
Nur ein bisschen, nicht viel. Just a little bit, not much. I used to be able to talk fluently, but I guess my business German isn't that good. Ich kann versuchen.
Cool. Cool. So let's give everyone about 1 more minute and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right. I think we're good to get started. So yeah, like we've talked about in the past, and most of you know, with the DAO we have certification program, and we also have insurance services, and provide Launchpad infrastructure. So with projects, we've been in this area for a while, kind of know what we're doing, have some infrastructure tools and things like that. Then we go and kind of help projects get going. And in return for that, the DAO gets some revenue, collects some fees that go back to the DAO's treasury. So Cold Phoenix is officially the first one that has gone through all three of the services that the DAO offers. So we thought it would be cool to have a call with them and have the CEO of Colmax and the CFO of Colmax come on here and tell you guys a little bit about what they do. The cool thing is that with the services that we provided to them, the DAO got paid in their token. So the DAO's treasury now holds their project's token. So WLD holders kind of benefit from what they do since it's held in the treasury. So throughout this, they're going to talk about a little bit of their background, what they do, and then at the end, we can open it up for some questions. So, sound good? And then if you guys do have any questions, just throw them into the Zoom chat, or at the end, if you want to actually talk a little bit, you can ask to be unmuted. But yeah, so Shetel, I think we can go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Riley. And just to add to that, if you feel uncomfortable asking the question in English as well, feel free to just write the question in the chat in German, and we'll pick it up at the end and answer it there. Okay, welcome. Thank you so much for wanting to hear about our cool project, company, global venture. We're very excited to be here. My name is Kjetil Ulving Tufte. I'm the CEO of Colmax. We'll come back to what Colmax is. But first, I also want to just show you that on the chat with us, we also have Truls. He's the CFO of Colmax. Just want to say hi, Truls, before we move into more.
Hi, everybody. Yes, hi, everybody. I'm very glad to be here as well, and glad that you are interested to learn about us. Kjetil?
So we're going to introduce us more, but before we do that, I just want to explain, so you have that in your mind when we go through this whole session, the difference between Colphoenix and Colmax. So Colmax, that's the company where I'm the CEO. And that's a for-profit company in the US that is turning a major environmental challenge into a great opportunity by actually cleaning up and harvesting a lot of raw materials. Now, Colphoenix, the reason why we're here and chatting, that is an investment DAO on the BNB network. And what that basically means is that this Colphoenix DAO is financing the first commercial site for Colmax. So that's how you guys are going to get access to actually 10% of the net revenue of that first commercial site. And that's a pretty cool deal. And we'll come back to why that's cool and why we also love it, because the importance of a community and impact on the environment. So that was just to frame it in a little bit for you. Now, just a little bit about myself. I'm Norwegian. I'm an engineer. I grew up in the Norwegian oil and gas industry, and I learned that seemingly impossible challenges could be overcome with the deployment of new technology in ingenious ways. And I've been part of deploying some extremely advanced technology on the seafloor of our oceans, sometimes even thousands of meters below the seafloor, sea surface. But first and foremost, I think my greatest lesson from all these years as an engineer and then an executive in the oil and gas industry is that I learned that if we're going to solve the big problems the world is facing now, we need to make sure that the best solution for nature is also the best for business. That's how I see the only way we can really move forward and move forward fast. So that's important for me. And that's also the reason why I jumped ship from the oil and gas industry 5 years ago and started basically searching the world for technologies I really believe can have a great impact on the way forward. I'll get back to that a little bit afterwards. Now I would just want to hand over to Truls so he can say a little bit about himself as well.
Yes, thank you, Kjetil. I am also a Norwegian. I'm married and I have 2 children. I have a master's degree in finance and I have been working in the financial industry for more than 20 years. Most of them have been within large investment banks, and I have participated in numerous deals and transactions. Working so many years in the traditional finance have taught me that the world is ready for a new and more sustainable way to fund and realize projects. The existing investment bank industry have way too much power in regards of which projects that ends up with funding or not. And often are their priorities done for all the wrong reasons. So I truly believe an active community like the Wolfwork is a new, efficient, and a far more sustainable way to finance a high-impact projects like the COMAX. And as Kjetil said, today I'm responsible for the finance and treasury in COMAX. So, and I'm really looking forward to be the guy that will be responsible for sending the payouts to the Coal Phoenix DAO and on a regular basis. Back to you, Kjetil.
Yeah. I just want to add to that, and thank you for highlighting that, Truls. I forgot to mention as well that how we have financed big important technologies in the past is not necessarily that's going to work for us in the future. So we need the blockchain technology. We need new disruptive ways of how to finance the technologies that might be unpopular for some industries, but we need them from an environmental impact. So yeah. And I'd like to bring that topic and bring that over to the next topic, which is basically why this is such a big passion for us. The way I see the world right now, we're in a major transition. For many, many years, our civilization has been carried on the back of the oil giants of oil, nature gas, and coal. Basically, the whole industrial revolution was built on these three. And right now we're having this exploding emergence of wind, solar, water, all these intermittent renewable energy sources. But we're having a struggle. There's a big struggle in the world now. Basically the latest horrible incidents in Europe where we see the whole power play on energy side coming in now. See Germany is turning on their coal power plants again. Italy is considering the same. Basically, what we're seeing is that we're not enabling this transition over to a later stage where the renewables will play the major role. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we have to help oil and coal and natural gas to be more sustainable in the transition phase where they're going to provide us energy until the renewables take over. And that's why we're here. Because we have found a great way to help coal. And just to put this in a context for you, when we burn coal to create energy, we get ash. Like everything else, when we burn stuff, we get ash. Well, the ash from the coal burning is extremely toxic. There's a lot of valuable materials in there, but there are also a lot of very, very bad stuff in there. Now, from the picture here, you'll see what happened.
Yeah, so real quick, everybody, if you look at my screen, these are some images that I pulled from their white paper and things just to kind of give context to the image he's talking about. If you look on Zoom and look at my screen, you can see it.
Yeah. And all of this is available in our white paper on the page. You'll find that as well, and the links are there. But just to show you how big this problem is, it's the second biggest waste stream on Earth. The only one that's bigger is basically the waste that is produced in our homes all around the world. So there's a huge amount of coal ash being produced every year by the coal industry around the world. There's actually 1.3 billion tons of coal ash. And that's a huge number. And so I'm going to give you a different reference on how you can remember how big this problem is. So that number of coal ash, that's the same weight as 250 million elephants every year. So you can imagine 250 million elephants of coal ash being produced every year in order to provide us with energy. And we have no good way of handling this coal ash. What's being done today is that it's either being dug into ground or it's put into coal ash ponds, and we transport it all around in trains and everything. And what we end up doing is that we're polluting the air, we're polluting the water, and we're polluting the ground. And we're turning these toxins within the coal ash into play. And we end up with pretty horrible consequences for nature, but most definitely also very high negative impact for people. We actually see a lot of cases around the world now with people getting cancer and other horrible diseases from being in proximity with coal ash and being in basically living in areas with coal ash. So it's a huge problem. And my biggest passion and what I've learned from the oil and gas industry, when there's a huge problem, there's usually a way of how you can flip that into a great opportunity. So we looked into that for a long time. And the key was in what's in the coal ash. So we talked about all this toxic stuff that pollutes our water. But what's also in the coal ash is some very valuable raw materials. So I just want to back to the problem a little bit, because this is important for this call, why we have Coal Phoenix and why Coal Phoenix was founded. So you can imagine, with all these coal power plants around the world, there's more than 1,100 in China right now, 230 plus in the US, and there's Germany, there's India, there's Brazil, there's everywhere. And all of these sites are struggling with their coal ash. And around these sites, there are communities that some used to have a lot of working for the coal industry. They used to have a good life. But what's happening now is that while these coal plants are shutting down, people are losing their jobs and they end up with a polluted environment around them. And they basically have a pretty sad outlook for the future. So I'll come back to that in later stage, but we wanted to have a mechanism where we not only help them with the problem in nature environment around there, but we wanted to have a mechanism where they also can participate. So that's the big plan with Coal Phoenix. We're going to deploy the DAO as an opportunity for people to pitch in on how can we solve these problems in our communities. And they can also, by buying the coax, be part of making money on cleaning up. Okay, so that was a little bit of a side note. We'll get back to that. But basically, it's a huge problem. 250 million elephants every year. So how do we turn this problem into a great opportunity? Well, that's where Colmax come in. So for more than 20 years of research and development, we were able to develop a technology that is doing an amazing thing with coal ash. So here's the thing. When coal is burnt, we create these very hard glass bonds in the ash. Think about it as like extremely hard, tiny diamonds in the ash. And within these diamonds, there are very valuable raw materials. And the world has been trying for many years to get access to these valuable materials in the ash. But we've never found a good economic and efficient way to do it. We've had some success in laboratories around the world, but not really on a scale where you can industrialize it. And that was until Colmax came. So we have found a great way of how we can harvest 3 very valuable raw materials from the ash. So basically, and by using, and this is going to be a little bit technical, just by using an advanced electromechanical acoustic technology, think about sound, we're actually breaking the bonds in the ash and making the valuable raw materials available for harvesting. Okay, so I took you on a this is passion for me, so I might have tripped off there a little bit. So basically, just to summarize, new advanced technology is turning this problem into an opportunity. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it means that we're going to make a lot of money on cleaning up a big problem. Now, that's a very positive circle. That's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Because the more money we make on cleaning up, the more this is going to catch up and expand across the globe. So Truls, I could talk about this for hours, but before I go nuts, I think it's good if you perhaps share some thoughts and numbers on these extremely valuable raw materials. What are they first?
Yeah, well, the three main offtakes, so raw materials or maybe products, if you like, to make it more easy to grasp, is alumina oxide, silica sand, and iron oxide. And it's important to understand that all three of these raw materials have great growth projections for the coming years. And that is mainly driven by the rapid urbanization we are all witnessing, the shift to more electrical vehicles and transportation systems, and finally, the need for various metals as input in new and more efficient technologies, which are arising in many different fields. And that is foreseen to keep going for years to come. Further, I think it's important for everybody to understand that we are not bringing something new to the market. We are entering with offtakes in a marketplace which are humongous, so to speak. This is a well-functioning commodity marketplace with a yearly value of around $80 billion US. So it's significant to say the least. Where alumina is the biggest market, where, as you know, most of that goes into the aluminum production, and that is worth around 50 billion. What does this mean for Colmax is that we can enter the market with as much volume as we can produce without having any restraint or any facing any volume or price restrictions, meaning we can produce as much as we want since the market is there and it's so huge. Further, I think it's important to say something about that. Normally, a raw material market or a commodity producer is producing one commodity. Often it could be oil, or it could be alumina alone, or it could be something else. We are producing or harvesting three valuables from the raw material we are in the coal ash, meaning that we are not that price sensitive to the various commodity prices, as you probably have seen in various news sites that often fluctuates with the things going on in the world. So, and that's a solid ground for the whole business case as well. I think we leave it at that for this time, Kjetil, and we've got more on the actual numbers for Colmax and Colphoenix later on.
Thank you, Truls. And but I think this is important for people to understand. So Riley, perhaps you could pull up the technical sketch of our technology. It becomes very engineering and very. I'm very happy to do that, and I hope I'll be able to pull you guys with me on this one. It's important to understand why this is such a good business case, because as I mentioned in the beginning, if we're going to solve the great challenges on Earth, what needs to be good for nature needs to be good for business. So if we're going to be able to clean up after the coal ash, we're going to have to be able to make a lot of money on it, because that's the only way you'll get a high adoption rate. And with that in mind, we designed our system. So what you're seeing here is the system. Basically, in a simplified term, we send coal ash in, we mix it with water, and we grind it down to smaller particles, and then we send it through our proprietary technology. That's what you see in the middle of the picture here as the MTU1 and MTU2. And that's where we use this very special acoustic technology to break the bonds. So what happens when you go out of those two stages and into what's called a centrifuge here? You'll see that we're actually harvesting the silica oxide, SiO2, and the iron oxide, Fe2O3. We're harvesting that immediately. That will be ready for sale. We'll dry package it and send it off. And then you'll see on the right-hand side, it's what's called Al2O3, and that's the alumina part that goes into another special proprietary technology that refines it into the highest purity grade possible for the market. And that means we're going to get a very good price for it. And that's important. Now, I want to show you a little funny thing and a brilliant thing about this as well. If you look at the bottom of what says centrifuge here, you'll see it says H2O and inert residue. These are two very important details in our plant. What happens is that we take water and mix it with the coal ash when we send it in. We can actually use water from the rivers, or we can use water from the ponds. It could be polluted water, it doesn't matter. Because what we do through sending us through this process, we end up with laboratory grade clean water. So that's part of what's giving back here, is that we want to pump clean water back into the rivers that's been cleaned. The second thing I've already mentioned once is what's called inert residue. Remember all these toxic things we talked about in the beginning that create cancer around the world and pollutes our air, water, and ground? What we're doing with those is we're turning them inert. Now, what does that mean? Basically, what it means is that you can take anything that is toxic in nature or wherever, and you can do certain things to it that will enable it to be not active anymore, to put it that way. So it's not going to be able to react and be toxic. And that's what inert means. So just to summarize this for you, we're taking toxic coal ash, harvesting 3 valuable raw materials, producing clean water, and we're doing this with very little energy and 0 CO2 emissions. So we have done a lot of mathematics, and Truls touched upon that and looked into, okay, how can we sell? How much do we need to sell? And how much are we going to spend when running these plants? And what's so amazing, since we're using so little energy and we're not using any high temperature or high pressure or anything like that, it's actually very cheap to process. So it also only cost us $38 to process 1 ton of coal ash. And from 1 ton of coal ash, we'll get 200 kilos alumina, we'll get 400 kilos of silica sand, and we'll get some 40 to 50 kilos of iron oxide. That's a lot. And we can sell that for way more than $38. So by now, I think you're starting to realize, and the same way we realized, that, wow, this is like a really, really cool idea. We need to do this. We need to do this. And we've had this with us for such a long time. And both Truls and myself and a few of the others as well we've been part of a lot of different companies, building companies, getting funding and capital in. We've been part of big corporate structures all around the globe. And we've seen good stuff they can do, and we've seen bad stuff they can do. So we started looking at this and we saw what we had. And this is something that's going to really help the coal industry, but it's also going to be a threat for a couple other industries. I'll mention one example for you. When we produce alumina, we're actually competing with mining of bauxite in Brazil, Australia, and a couple other places. Okay, I'll take you through this. I wasn't actually going to, but I think you'll be able to bear with me. So traditional alumina, like the wheels on your car, they're produced from something called bauxite. And that's a mineral lying in the ground in what I said, Australia, Brazil, and a couple of other places. In order to get that out of the ground, they use a lot of very toxic processes. They ruin a lot of nature, and it's a bad process. These guys are going to get scared when they realize what we can do and realize how big we can become, how fast. And with that in the back of our mind, and we have a couple other examples as well for other raw materials we're harvesting, we wanted to deploy a new structure when we're building this company. And that's when we started thinking about blockchain. I'm a WLD holder myself. I've been part of the space for a while. And we saw that there's something cool to be done here. Because if we're able to build a global community which have ownership in our revenue and as a key stakeholder in our success and the safety and the structure of Colmax, well, then that's a really, really cool safety mechanism for being able to build our business. And that's when we started thinking about Col Phoenix. We need to build a community that is benefited from being able to pull this out into the world and build it, expand it, and grow it. So that brings us into next topic of this call, Col Phoenix and the offering. So I mentioned in the beginning that you'll be funding the first commercial site of Colmax. So what does that mean? Well, basically, we're going to use the money from the sale of coax to fund the first commercial site we're going to put up in North America. We're going to have, in the beginning, we're going to have what we call 1 processing lines, and we're going to build that into 11 processing lines. We'll get back to that, and Truls will show you some numbers. But what's important about this is that by funding that, you get access to 10% of the net revenue from that site. Okay, so let's just think about it for a second. Most of you are probably familiar with being a shareholder in a company. When you're a shareholder, if the company makes money and if it has profit left and it feels it's a good decision to pay out what's called dividend, part of that profit, you get paid for owning those shares. Well, that's a long route to go down. There's a lot of risks associated with it, and we figured we wanted to do this differently. We wanted to give the community direct access to our revenue. We're so confident in this project and in this company that we wanted to turn this into a really cool case. So you'll get 10% net revenues. And Truls, perhaps this is a good time for you to come in and tell people what this actually means in cash. I've been talking a lot now, sorry.
No. I think you're doing fine, Kjetil, and I would imagine people are interested to hear as well. Just to take you through some of the numbers, and to start off with saying we have chosen to be conservative in the way we are forecasting our figures, and in this I mean that we are estimating or being cautious by how much of the raw materials or how much we can harvest from the coal ash. In that, within that, it lies that there's a certain percentage of each mineral in the coal ash. So we are estimating that to be on the lower side of what we can achieve, just on the to be cautious in the white paper. And the same goes for what kind of purity we will achieve. That said, we are very comfortable or confident that we can achieve a lot better output than we forecast. I will come back to that in a few seconds. We are estimating that we will generate net revenue in the range of between $160 to $310 per ton of coal ash we process. And as you can hear, there's a rather huge spread between those two numbers. I will get back to them in a few seconds. Further, we estimate a yearly processing volume of close to 400,000 tons of coal ash when we are in full production. And the math here goes that this will result in revenues of around 60 million as a low point, which we are using in the white paper, or to well above 120 million per year. So we are showing both the sides of that outcome in the white paper, but we are focusing on the cautious or on the conservative side to start with. As Kjetil mentioned, yeah.
I just want to put a small detail in there, Truls, because just to put this in perspective for you guys. So the payout of this is basically fundamentally funded on two things. There's two important items. One is how fast are we able to scale up the number of lines processing? And the second line is how good is the quality of the raw materials we're getting out? Okay, sorry, Truls, I'll just have to do this because This is like my holy grail when it comes to building companies and technologies. The number one threat for any company coming with a new technology is how good will you be at scaling this up. It will do you no good if you have an amazing technology, but you're only able to use it in a lab. It has to be scalable. It has to be industrialized and possible to use out there in the real world. Now we're so ready for this, and our lines are so easy to build. Sorry to say, they are pretty easy to build. We have super good track on it, and they're easy to scale up. So going from 1 line to 11 lines is basically a copy paste. It's exact same as going for boom, boom. Now what we're going to spend time on, and what's important to understand, is that our most time is going to be spent on getting the highest quality possible. Because if we get low quality, say silica sand, we'll get paid far less. And so far, that all the testing and all the things we've done and all the lab and scales and everything shows that even with the first threshold of quality, we're very high up, but we want to be better. So we want to go right up there in the top notch. And that's why you'll see that the span of potential revenue for Colmax is quite large. That's what's kicking in. Sorry, I hijacked it.
Yeah, no, you did not. So I think it was good to highlight some of that. Again, back to some of the numbers, as Kjetil also mentioned, the DAO or the Colfinance DAO will then get 10% from the net revenue, which we just said would be in the range between 60 to 120 million per year, meaning $6 to $12 million in yearly payout. And that will be paid directly to the DAO on a monthly basis, which is relatively uncommon, to say the least. That said, Kjetil was touching a little bit on it when it comes to the purity and what kind of quality we can deliver on our products. And just to exemplify this a little bit, there is a lot of upside in this business case. In our forecasting, we are estimating to receive approximately $50 per ton of silica sand that we are harvesting from the coal ash. That is already in that number when we are saying we're going to make $60 million. If we are able to make that silica sand a little more pure than the low price of $50, which is call it the base price, and we are very confident that that is achievable with the great technology we are sitting on. We could achieve prices of around $500 per ton. So the span here is extreme, so to speak. And as we are producing approximately 175,000 tons of silica sand when in full production, the potential extra revenue of just this one mineral is around 80 million or more than over, so to say, base case estimation in the white paper. This is just to set things in a little bit of a context of how extreme upside potential there could be in these numbers. Even we believe that our base numbers are attractive enough as they are, but it's always good for investors to see there's some more potential upside to dig into as we go along.
Okay.
I have some more on the revenue side when it goes down to per token holder, but I was thinking, Kjetil, you say a few more words, and we take that in the end.
Okay, so I just want to do a short recap of Colfinance, why it's good. So just like the WLD, actually, you'll get paid for owning. So by buying the coax, you'll get paid. You not only just the value of the token, you'll get paid. Number 2 is transparency. By doing this structure, we have a high degree of transparency for the investor. You'll have full disclosure. You'll be able to see everything, and you'll be part of the development of the company and the first commercial sites. Number 3, which is the biggest, the most important for me, is that you'll be part of a community that will make a big environmental impact. And that's the coolest part. That's really, at least in my mind, that's really how we should utilize blockchain and crypto to make big sustainable change. Sorry. So yeah, you want to do a small
Great.
small on
Yes. Great recap. And I was thinking, obviously it's interesting for you listeners to see what this actually means for the token holders. I mean, the numbers which I just explained to you, it's sometimes difficult to grasp around without seeing it break down to the cents in relation to each token. So Riley, if you could please assist me and share your screen on the setup for the what this means for the token holders.
Yeah, I have
If
it up.
we just
It's
yeah.
up.
Yeah, great. Yeah, sorry, I say it now. I was we have put up 3 cases there, which we are to visualize what kind of potential that lies in this case. And again, it's important to underline that the lowest case in this or of these 3 scenarios are actually the case that we are building our white paper around. So we are on the cautious or on the conservative side, but it's I think it's important for you guys to see what kind of potential there could be in the case. We are using the investment of $10,000 an example, a number I believe most of you are familiar with. And if you invest that at the offer price of 2 cents, you will get 500,000 tokens or COEX tokens. And if we then reach the net revenue of approximately 60 million, which we are estimating in 2025 when basically in full operation, the token holder will receive a payout of 1.04 cent per year, or call it 1 cent per year, which equals approximately $5,200 per year, or approximately 50% return on the investment. That said, it's important to understand that you still are token holder after you receive your return on your investment. And you will be entitled to the same payout, not the same, but 10% of the net revenue payout for the years to come after that. So that's for 1 year. To put it on the monthly base, this is approximately $434 per month, or about 4% yield monthly. If you go to the other side of the case, which we also have in the white paper, we are not focusing on that case whatsoever. It's just mentioned as it's in there, but we're not building anything around it. That in that case, we will make 120 million in net revenue. And that's kind of a middle point revenue case, which we believe as in the company, it's a very likely scenario. But again, we are focusing on being cautious when we are doing the calculations. The same $10,000 at 2 cents give you, of course, the same amount of tokens. The net revenue of 120 will give you a payout of just about 2 cents per year, or approximately just about $10,000, or the whole of your investment in that year alone, which obviously is 100% return on the investment. And again, you're still token holder and are entitled to the coming payouts for years to go. That's about $800 per month, or a yield of about 8% per month. And to go all the way out, and we are calling it the bullish case, or the bullish revenue case, if you like. It's optimistic, but it's absolutely realistic due to the greatness of the technology and the way we can tune it, and how we can build it to harvest the highest possible quality of the 3 various metals we just described earlier today. And the same 10,000 invested will give you the same amount of tokens, obviously. And in that bullish case, we can easily surpass net revenues of 200 million in 2025. and then the token holder will receive a payout of close to 4 cents per year, or approximately $20,000 per year, which even my son would have figured out is close to 200% return on the investment. And the monthly payout is also very nice, and it will yield around 14 to 15% monthly in that bullish case. So I think it's good for you to see all of those scenarios, so you can play a little bit around those numbers. And I think it's also okay to emphasize that the thing that we actually have, the huge spread from our call it the base case or over conservative case to a bullish case, also leaves a lot of room for interesting trading opportunities when we are getting closer to 2025, which should be of interest for the token holders. You can create a lot of interest in actually which direction the company is going, which grade of purity are we going to achieve, what are the market prices, which you can follow on your screen almost daily if you like. So we can create a lot of good and interesting opportunities as well for the more short-term investor. That said, it's important to understand that this is a long-term investment case where we are looking at the yearly payout, the monthly payout as the huge trigger, and the yield every month is going to be solid even in our conservative case. So I think I'll leave it with that, Kjetil, so it's not getting too technical.
Thank you, Turs. And I'm so happy that you're in charge of the numbers here, because I would not
Thank you.
I would not be able to do that as good as you do. So thank you so much.
Thanks.
There's a few questions coming in the chat. We'll do a Q&A at the end, so I'll pull those up then.
Yeah.
So I think what I want to do for you guys now, I'll give you a recap before we move into Q&A. So allmylinks is a company that is turning a great challenge into, or a major challenge, major problem into a great opportunity by putting business first and also ensuring that what's good for business is good for nature. You have the opportunity to participate in the first commercial site to be built in North America now as a token holder in Coal Phoenix. And how you do that is you go in and you buy the COAX token on Friday when it's open for sale at 7 o'clock in the evening Central European time. That's where my time is, so that's why I say that. And yeah, all the details are in the white paper. We will be available. I prefer Discord, but I'm also on Telegram in that group, so please join there, and we'll be very good at following up on Discord. Discord will also be the main challenge where we publicize new information, where you can keep part of the development and see every new step we do. And just to further emphasize on why we're here is that if we're going to make sustainable change and enable the energy transition we're in now, we need to help coal, especially, to play its role. And we can only do that if we do that in an untraditional way. And that way is through community built on blockchain and crypto. That's why Coal Phoenix is there, and that's why we're talking to you. So we hope you really like our case just as much as we do. I thank you so much for your time, and vielen Dank für alle von Deutschland. Ich habe nicht Deutsch für viele Jahre gesprochen, aber ich versuche. So thank you very much, and Riley, I think that means we're opening up for Q&A.
Cool, that sounds good. So real quick, so since they did go through all of our service and products, just to quickly explain it for people, I'm going to draw on my screen. So right here, Coal Phoenix token for those services, we're getting WLD is getting paid in coax tokens. So if we have WLDs, this is very bad, WLD's treasury, we would now have some of those coax tokens in our treasury, along with WLIDI or LIDI or those other tokens and the other things that we hold. So it's a nice little addition to WLD's portfolio. And then they're also having their public sale on Friday, which I saw somebody ask what the minimum was. If I remember right from your guys' white paper, the minimum for the public sale on Friday was $100.
Yep.
Cool. But if anybody has any questions or if anybody wants to unmute, chat with Trolls or Jeto real quick, just feel free to ask in the chat.
There's a few questions popping up in the chat. Is there a soft cap? Riley, perhaps you want to go through the talk or just mention the tokenomics or for them?
Yeah, so there's thanks for the comment on my drawing. I try my best. Using a mouse is yeah. So is there a soft cap? No. Their white paper doesn't mention anything about a soft cap, and they already had a private round. So their private sale is already done, and now they're going into the public sale on Friday.
Yeah. I think there's a technical question there for me. Thank you for that. So on the production flow chart, you shared MTU 1 and 2, MTU 3. Okay, MTU just means the main technical unit. And SGA, that's a term we use for smelter grade alumina. That means what kind of quality alumina you have. So we're going for the 99% SGA, which is very high quality alumina, and we'll get a very premium price for that. That's what we're targeting. And let me check if there is more to that question I didn't pick up. Yeah, so basically that's it. Those are just abbreviations for the technology definition. Yeah, is there more I should mention there? Yeah, good comment. Hourly production. Yeah, so just to make sure you understood that. So that's 10 tons of coal ash slurry. So that means that's 50% water and 50% coal ash. So that's still 5 tons of coal ash. That being said, we're adding on lines next to each other. So each line has a capacity of 5 tons of coal ash, pure coal ash. So capacity-wise, I think it's solid that we're at 5 tons. And yeah, you're good. I'm impressed by the detail here. That's nice. I like that. Thank you. Is there any other question? Yeah, is there going to be a special for private sale WLD token holders from Caroline? Riley, I guess that's for the wild guys.
Yeah, so so way back in April and May, we were gonna go that route because we were talking with the Gold Phoenix and Colmax guys about doing that. But what ended up happening is they did their private sale. They closed their private sale. So now they're on to their public sale on Friday. So if you're interested in that, then that's on Friday.
Yeah. There's a question for me as well. Are there already companies interested in the technology, and is there already a production that has tested this machine? So yes and yes. We are in dialogue with several coal companies actually. They really like what this technology can help them with. So quite a few of them are very keen on having us setting up our site with them first. So I think we're actually going to have a bit of a luxury problem, to put it that way, to pick the right site where we want to go first. It's a great problem to have. So yeah, definitely interest from big companies out there on the technology side. And when it comes to production, this has been tested and tested and tested. And what's very important for us is third-party verification, because as I mentioned earlier to you guys, the business case is strongly built on the quality of the raw materials we have harvested. And it's very important for us to have verified that quality with third parties. So yes, it's been definitely tested over and over and over and over again. So that being said, there's always a step from moving from the pilot plant and moving into the big scaled up industrial version, which we're doing now. So the line itself isn't any bigger, it's the same line, but it's put in a more in situ environment on a site where there's other processes going and everything around. But that risk I feel very confident in handling. We have done that many times, especially in the oil and gas industry. So yeah, I feel good, and I'm really happy with the attention we've been given from the coal industry. They really like to get our help.
It's very cool. So whenever it comes to the first line you talked about before, I think in one of our calls where you were saying that with the first one, you can kind of determine what your configuration is going to be for the next 10 lines.
Yeah, so it's going to be a copy paste.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, so with the first one, you can see some things that, like, specifically with that pond, that you're dealing with this, and this, which means if you had this equipment, it would be better. So on the next 10 lines, you can kind of tune it for where they're at.
Yes.
It goes with the dryers or something.
Yes and no. I'm a huge fan of standardization. So what we build is what we build, and that's what we go for. This is our standard equipment because it gets the operational cost really down. It enables everybody that is trained on one site can go anywhere and work on all the other sites. So we're going to keep it standardized as possible. That being said, there are differences in coal ash, just as there are differences in coal. It's like when you dig coal up the ground in West Virginia, and you dig coal up from the ground in China. There are differences of the mineral composition in those. That might have some influence on our processing line, and might have to do some processing tweaks on the configurations. But basically what you see on the screen, that's the configuration we're going for. That's how the setup is. We might do some minor tweaks, and we have adjustments opportunities around there. And there's also another part that is worth mentioning to that. You can always get better quality by adding another main technical unit, adding another. But at some point in time, you come to a balance point where you need to invest too much money to get that high quality, and it doesn't really pay off. And that's what we're going to spend a lot of time on now in the next coming months. It's find the perfect intersection where we do the right amount of main technical units and technology deployment for the good enough quality. There's no point of going to 100% if you get almost just as good paid for 98%. And it will cost you a ridiculous amount of money to move to 100. So that's what we're going to spend most of the time on now, on tweaking the setup and getting that in the perfect configuration that gives us what I call a processing envelope, that every call within this envelope we can handle. And yeah, you have to stop me, guys, when I start going technical, because I love to talk about this. So
Cool. So in the chat, real quick, I'm gonna put your guys's allmylinks that has their white paper, website.
Oh, good question. Do we have a wrong countdown on the site, or because it's 1 p.m. EST, right, Riley? And that should be plus down.
So 1 p.m. EST and then 12 CST.
Yeah, 12 CST. So that will mean it's 1900 hours CET.
Yeah, some people we're gonna start saying everything in EST because some people get confused between CST and CET.
I know.
But yeah, so I just put your guys' all my links in there, and then I think there was
Hold on. Great question from Andrea Brown. Dankeschön. That's a really cool question. Okay, again, but I think so much water is a problem. Okay, that's a good question, because we're gonna basically need, if we're processing 5 tons of coal ash an hour, we're gonna need 5 tons of water an hour. And what's the beauty about this is that the coal industry have already solved this problem for us. Because the only way you can store coal ash without turning into dust and going into the air and polluting everything everywhere, you have to mix it with water. So what we're harvesting is already lying in ponds with a lot of water in there. What we just have to make sure is that we mix it in the right ratio. So very good question, and it shows that you've been paying attention. Thank you so much.
yeah. So so they asked if it'll be B&B. Yeah, that's correct. The minimum amount is $100. The maximum amount is $25.
I like that question. Maximum amount.
Yeah. So
and, you know, for me, guys, and this is back again, this is so important because the community has to be for everybody, because we want this to become a global phenomenon where you actually take part in a huge environmental problem. And that's why we also said $100 now. And yeah, let's see. I hope that everybody can buy in on this, and then they will eventually when you can trade it when we have listed.
Yeah. So so like I said too, they already had their private sale, which the hard cap for that was 2 million. So now we moved on to the public sale. And for the private sale, the max amount per person was 250,000. But if there's any more, so the website is, I just sent the link to all my links. If you go there, it's the very top one, and then that'll take you to their site and their white paper and Discord, Telegram, all that fun stuff. But I'm gonna make Devin the host because I have to go to the airport. I'm heading back to Texas right now, so I might be late if I stay on any longer. But just to wrap it up, I'm gonna make Devin the host. So thank you guys. So
thank you, Ravi, and yeah.
And I have the same problem over here, Kjetil, that I'll gonna sign off in 2 minutes.
So for everybody, just jump over to Discord.